All right, let's dive in. We're going to travel back in time to a place that isn't just some dusty chapter in a history book. Nope. This place is basically the source code for our modern world. We're talking about Mesopotamia, the land where civilization itself was born. I want you to try something, just for a second. Really picture it. A world with no cities, no writing, not even a way to measure time. It's almost impossible to imagine, right? Well, that was the reality for all of humanity, until the people of Mesopotamia completely changed the game. So let's get into exactly how they pulled it off. So, where was this place? Well, it was right here, in this amazing strip of fertile land tucked between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. I mean, the name Mesopotamia literally means land between the rivers. And it's called the cradle of civilization for a very, very good reason. This is where humanity first figured out how to do more than just survive. This is where we learned to build, to organize, and to dream on a massive scale. And you know, their first giant leap forward? It was all about learning to live together, not in small scattered tribes, but in something totally new. An invention that would change human history forever. The city. Uruk, Ur, Babylon, Akkad. These might sound like just names from an old map, but they were the very first cities on Earth. Can you imagine that? For the first time ever, thousands of people living together, working together, building a shared future. This wasn't just a new place to live. It was a completely new way of being human. And these cities were unbelievably complex. I mean, we're not just talking about a bunch of houses. No way. They built these monumental temples called ziggurats, these massive stepped pyramids that looked like they were reaching for the heavens. And this new physical scale, this huge architecture, was matched by a new social scale. You had powerful kings and priests creating the laws and leadership you'd need to manage thousands of people. So, what was the secret sauce? How did they power this incredible change? It all came down to one thing: water. Before, you had this dry, arid land with barely enough resources. But then, they mastered irrigation. They figured out how to channel water from those two big rivers. And just like that, bam, they turned the desert into these lush, fertile fields. This created a huge surplus of food, which meant the population exploded and trade took off. It was the engine that drove their entire civilization. And Mesopotamia was never a place that stood still. It was constantly changing. As you can see, great empires rose and fell over hundreds of years. First up, you had the Sumerians. We can thank them for writing. Then came the Akkadians, the Babylonians with their famous legal codes, and the pretty fearsome Assyrians. Each empire built on what the last one did, creating this incredibly dynamic, always evolving civilization. Okay, so now you've got all these people living and trading together, and that creates a whole new problem, right? How do you keep track of everything? How do you make rules that stick? How do you pass down knowledge? The solution was another world-changing invention: writing. Their system was called cuneiform, and it was just genius in its simplicity. You basically just take a wet piece of clay, press a reed stylus into it to make these cool wedge-shaped marks, and then you bake it in the sun until it's hard. That's it. Simple, right? But think about it. For the very first time, human thought could be made permanent. And I can't overstate how big of a deal this was. This was about way more than just counting grain shipments. This was the birth of recorded history. Just let that sink in. Suddenly, knowledge wasn't limited by what one person could remember and pass on. It could be saved perfectly, shared everywhere, and built upon generation after generation. Humanity had just given itself a permanent memory upgrade. So what was one of the first things they decided to write down? Rules. Of course. The famous Code of Hammurabi is one of the oldest and most complete sets of laws we've ever found. They literally carved the laws and punishments into stone for everyone to see. This created a formal system of justice, and it was a huge shift, moving away from personal revenge and toward justice being handled by the state. But, you know, it wasn't all just laws and taxes. They also wrote stories. The Epic of Gilgamesh is one of the world's first great pieces of literature. It's this powerful story about a hero king on a quest for immortality, and it explores these huge, timeless questions, things like friendship, what it means to be a leader, and really, the meaning of life itself. It just goes to show you that thousands of years ago, people were wrestling with the exact same big questions we still think about today.
All right, so from writing, let's switch gears to another area where their impact is, and I mean this literally, felt every single second of our day: math, and how we measure the universe. 60. Take a good look at that number. 60. What's so special about it? It might seem totally random, but this number, first used by Mesopotamian mathematicians, is the invisible framework for how you measure your entire life.
And here's the payoff. The 60 seconds in a minute and the 60 minutes in an hour, yep, that's from them. The 360 degrees in a circle, that's them too, because 360 is just 6 times 60. This base 60 system they came up with became the foundation for everything, from creating advanced calendars to literally inventing the science of astronomy.
And this wasn't just some abstract math problem for them. These systems had supercritical practical uses. They used them to map the stars, which told them when to plant and when to harvest. It helped them organize their entire society around religious holidays and calendars. It was math for survival and for civilization. So it's really easy to think of Mesopotamia as this long-lost world, buried under sand somewhere. But it's not. It's really not. As we're about to see, the fingerprints of this ancient civilization are all over our modern world. Just look at this breakdown. It's so clear. Their cuneiform writing, that evolved into our language and all our literature. Hammurabi's code, that's a direct ancestor of our modern legal systems. Their base 60 math is the reason your watch works the way it does. And those first cities were the blueprint for the global urban world we all live in today. The line from them to us is direct and unbroken. There's a quote that really just says it all. Every clock you look at, every law you follow, every city you walk through carries the fingerprints of ancient Mesopotamia. It's such a powerful thought, isn't it? That their world is still here, inside ours. When you boil it all down, Mesopotamia wasn't just another ancient civilization. It was the spark. It was the original flash of light that ignited human progress and set us on the path to everything that has happened since. And that really leaves us with one final big question. They lit a fire that's still burning thousands of years later. So what spark will our civilization, our time on this planet, leave behind for the world of tomorrow? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this one.